Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to our Outside the Box podcast. We're now here at episode 15. Man, time flies. Who knew that we'd be at episode 15 this quickly? I hope that means that y'all are enjoying this as much as we are. Of course, we want to welcome all of y'all, and as you surely know by now, Sam and I were right for the ClemsonJunkies.com. We've been able to have Jason Priester join us, as a guest several times over the last few weeks. And Jason writes with allclemson.com. And from what I can understand, if he does make it on tonight, it'll be really, really late. It probably is not going to happen. But anyway, we want to ask y'all before we get started, if you would, to go to our YouTube page, okay, our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it, like our podcast, if you would. Let us know what y'all think about what we're talking about. If you got any ideas, we're open to suggestions, okay? As long as it's about Clemson sports, we're all about it. And so, all right, so tonight, Sam and I are going to start off and ask Sam, as I usually do. Sam, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. Just trying to get this thing shared around. Listen, guys, we had right at 900 views from last week, and I want to thank you all. Freddie and I both want to thank you. That's really, really impressive, and we enjoy doing this. But it's nice to know that we're getting the views. So I was trying to share the broadcast with everybody so they could join in and visit with us and offer comments and stuff.
Well, and I want to apologize to everybody because we're running a little behind tonight because, of course, I had one of my last coach pitch ball games tonight that I coach, and it ran over a little bit. So we're running a little behind, and we apologize for that. But hope y'all enjoy what we got in store for you tonight. And so, all right, start off with, as we do, or as we have been doing over the last couple of weeks, looking at baseball. Of course, the weekend series in Charlottesville didn't go the way most Tiger fans wanted it, would have liked to have had it happen. But here's the good news. Here's the silver lining on it. Even with that, Clemson is in the driver's seat right now, even after losing 2 of 3 to Virginia, to make the ACC tournament. And so a couple of weeks ago, that was, very questionable. Matter of fact, my article today even discussed or talked about, what may have appeared to be the possible, or what some may have thought was could hurt the Tigers with the Pitt game being canceled back in March, may actually help them out, because right now they're sitting at a 385 winning percentage in the conference, while Duke, on the other hand, is sitting at a 370. So that in itself, will help the Tigers out a lot more. As we go into this weekend, of course, before we get there, we've got the game against Coastal Carolina, is the midweek game, which could help if we can get a win there tremendously. But then you've got Boston College, and honestly and truthfully, it would take a huge letdown at this point. Most people thinking about it, for them to lose that series. So the way the Tigers have been playing, Sam, what do you think there? I mean, we both talked about it earlier about Boston College. So what are your thoughts on that series?
Well, honestly, I'm looking at the numbers that you just put out. Of course, Boston College has like a 0.185 winning percentage, a conference percentage. And Duke has 370. We have the 385. And I posed the question to several people, you included today, is what would it take this week in the final weeks of the season? What would it take for us to pretty much guarantee an opportunity to play in the ACC tournament? And I think the overriding consensus is we need to win at least one game. 2 would pretty much seal it, but 1, there's several factors going in with Duke, also playing the end of this, their end of this season on this coming weekend. So But I do believe that Clemson has done what it needed to do in the last several weeks to make itself available for the ACC tournament. You know, we've talked about this over and over and over. I'm sounding like a broken record, but this team honestly does not quit. They do not give up. What they met with in Virginia on Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday. I'm not saying it was planned. I'm not saying Clemson was screwed, but I am saying that Clemson had to play through some pretty dang difficult, series with the rain delay. They let the game on Friday night go as long as it possibly could. Mac Anglin was doing quite well, and then all of a sudden the balls get wet. I mean, whatever. Then the second game having to be delayed, and then the third on Sunday they had a double header, which it just didn't. Of course, Virginia had to play the same circumstances as Clemson did, but they were home, and they're also a highly ranked baseball team.
Well, and what I was impressed with last night, I watched the game, after it finally got started at 8:30. All right, and watched it till the end, and just because. Well, I love Clemson sports anyway. Okay, so that's a foregone conclusion. But at the same time, just like you just said, you never know when this team could break out of it. We go to the ninth inning and we're down, as bad as we are. And who would have thought that the last strike would have been to Wright, who had the opportunity to tie the ball game up? And had already shown earlier that he could hit the home run. I mean, that was, no doubt, So no, this team does not quit. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do if they can get into the ACC tournament. And I'm saying if I feel like they're going to get into the ACC tournament. I do. One other thing that I was going to point out with baseball is, something else happened this weekend on the diamond that hadn't happened in a while. And we're seeing how much of an impact, that new football, baseball star, Will Taylor can help out. This was the first time since, let me get back to my notes because I don't want to tell you wrong. This was the first time since Kyle Parker's 3-run home run back in the 2010 regionals against Auburn that a football player has hit a home run for the Clemson baseball team. That's impressive. We're in 2022. So you see it doesn't happen all that often, but, Sam, how do you feel about what he's brought to this baseball team?
Well, case in point was you pointing out Kyle Parker and how long it's been since this has happened. Will Taylors don't come along often. As Jason has said many times, and I appreciate his guidance in this, Will Taylor may be the most professionally prepared baseball player on our team. He does things remarkably. And when he hit that home run, that only sealed the deal. If he had to come back, we would sure would like to have him a little earlier. But if he's got to come back now is a great time, because I'm going to tell you right now, I wrote a little article today that I'm going to continue like a Monday series called Monday Ramblings. And in that, I talked about what the silver lining of all the struggles this team has had this year. That silver lining is, and I guess I'm going out on a limb here and making a prediction. I believe this team, if they do get in, and I believe they will, to the ACC tournament, they're going to go deep into the tournament. This team has nothing but fight in them. They're going to go down hard, or they're not going to go down at all, is what I'm saying. And I believe this team could make some noise. I really do. I believe in this team. They are pretty impressive.
Well, their back's against the wall, and it has been for, a little while now. So, and, they've shown that they're going to fight, and that's the good thing about them. What else could you say? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I have to agree 100% with you on what you said there. Now from the team trying to make it into the ACC tournament and give themselves a chance to make it to the NCAA tournament. Let's switch gears and talk about a team that is, now been to 2 straight ACC championship games and is hosting a regional this year for the first.
Freddie, you're frozen up on me there, Freddie. I think Freddie was talking about the leading into the softball team. Of course he was. And the remarkable start that this entire program has had. 2 years, and we've made the NCAA twice. This year is the first. They kind of got cheated out of the regional last year, but this year they seem to have just done everything they needed to do, clicked every box, and now they're going to be playing a regional at Clemson. Clemson in that regional is the first, the number 1 seed, and they're going to play UNC Wilmington on the opening game on Friday. It's a double elimination tournament. So basically, Clemson has a good chance at advancing. The girls have played, and baseball, softball is not one sport that I'm really, really in tune with. We've lost Freddie. He lost power. So you've got the Sam show now. So forgive me if I seem to stumble a little bit, because I wasn't really prepared to talk in depth on softball, but it's worth mentioning this team, what this team and this program has accomplished, and what Clemson University has invested in this program has certainly borne a lot of fruit, a lot of positive things. These young ladies have done a remarkable job in the last 2 years, and this year particularly they've proven their worth. And I just think that what we're seeing as fans is only a tip of the iceberg for what's coming in the next season or two, because this is a pretty young team. They're still young, and so hopefully they'll be able to continue this season and make some headway. And who knows what the future holds this season, but for sure next season should be really, really, really good. Well, honestly, the next subject we were going to talk about, and I'm going to go ahead and go on with it, is that the ACC divisionless football. It was proposed, and it's been petitioned to the NCAA to allow Clemson to not have divisions. The rule is any conference that has over 12 members, if I'm correct. I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm not. But any conference that has over 12 members, it has to be divisioned. It has to be a division proposition. And so Clemson's petition, and chances are they'll probably really get a good opportunity to not have divisions. They're already banking on it, as a matter of fact. And the model they're going to go with once they go divisionless is Clemson, just using Clemson as an example, will have 3 permanent members, opponents that we play every year. And then over the course, and then that means they'll play 6, different ones every year, which means every team will play on either campus every 5 years. So that's pretty much better than what we've seen this year. I don't believe that Clemson can could not benefit from this. I think the ACC in general showed with the 2020 championship game that the ACC needs a stellar matchup. They need a banner game, and Clemson and Notre Dame gave that, and the ratings were as high as they've ever been. It actually outrated every single other championship, that ACC championship, or the championship game that year. And then juxtapose that to last year when Wake Forest and Pitt played. I'll be honest with you, that was a letdown. I even asked the question, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, did the tree actually fall? And I said, well, the same thing would be applied to the ACC championship game last year. If a game was played, nobody was there, did it really get played? And yes, it did, but it wasn't very well watched. So what this is going to do is it's going to pit the top seed and the second seed of the conference for the championship game every year. I don't see how in the world that could go any in a bad direction anyway. I think Clemson right now, the way we are, will pretty much be guaranteed the opportunity to play in either in either the first or the second position. Looks like we got Freddie back. Freddie, I've moved past the softball, and I'm now talking about divisionless ACC football.
That's
And
fine. I apologize. We had a lightning strike that knocked the power out for a minute, so it had to reboot. I apologize, y'all. But,
I know the viewers are glad to have you back. They've had to look at this ugly mug.
all right, so catch me up to speed, Sam. You said you were talking about divisional football.
What we were talking about is the model. You know,
Yeah.
the ACC's petition to the NCAA. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion. They've even plan to start it next season, 2023. And what it looks like is the proposed model of 3 permanent opponents and 6 rotating opponents works out pretty darn well. That means Clemson and whoever, every team within the ACC, I think I said 5 years, every single ACC team will see each other on campus or off every 10 years, which I said 5, but I really meant to say 10. And so that can't be anything but good. And then you factor in the 1 and the 2 seeded teams will produce a much more quality product.
Well, I mean, we've already seen, how the other side of that works out. So yeah, I mean, I'm in total agreement there. It can't do anything but make that championship game better, in my opinion. When you got one side that is looked as really horrid, but yet, well, I mean, there's been a couple of times that the one side of the divisions, it was like, who didn't want to win it? You know what I'm saying? Was the question at the end of the season.
The musical chairs game that Coastal Division has played in the last 10 years has been unbelievable.
Oh yeah. So I can understand that and making it better that way. So
well, since it looks like we still have a little while to go, I don't know if you're prepared to talk much about the ACC meetings that took place last week in Florida, but I just want to talk about a few things, and if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead.
There's some real interesting stuff. Everybody's worried about the NIL. Everybody's worried about revenues. Everybody's worried about the composition of what college football will look like in the next 10 or 15 years.
Of course.
And Jim Phillips, our commissioner, sits on a transformation committee for the NCAA. And what that committee is charged with is how to plan a way for the NCAA and college football to remain at the top. And the way they're going to do that with certain circumstances will dictate. But it looks like, everybody made an assumption that the Power Five's just going to drop away and form their own league and everything will be hunky-dory. Well, that's not quite the way it's going to work, according to Commissioner Phillips, because that doesn't factor in the NCAA basketball tournament, March Madness, which is really the golden goose for the conference. So you can't really go 5. You can go 10 and put it under the same umbrella. And with the renegotiations of contracts, television media right contracts, particularly for the ACC being 10 years away, there's a lot of opportunity here for some stellar matchups with the new divisionists. There are going to be more watchable games. There's going to be more watchable basketball games, which will be more revenue for each member institution. So it was interesting to me that when I read the article a little further, that I think Commissioner Phillips said there was going to be some different models. There were going to be several different models. And the Notre Dame commissioner, Swyback, I think was his name, pointed out that it's going to boil down to this. The ACC will either have to follow into one of two sons, the gravitational force of either the SEC or the Big Ten. That they're going to be the programs or the conferences that really, really survive. They're going to be the ones where teams will gravitate towards, which ultimately will mean the death of the ACC in formal terms, I think. But the bottom line is all that's up in the air. But I found it very interesting that they were at least willing to talk about that and throw those little ideas around. I know I've thrown this at you. I don't mean to, but no, I think it was really worth the read.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I enjoyed what I got, and I'll be honest, I didn't get a chance to read as much of it as I wanted to about on that part of it. But look, it's all about the revenue, and we all know that, you know. And the bad thing about you said a minute ago that, you know, for the ACC, the NCAA tournament is the you know, the moneymaker. And I understand that part, or the revenue part. I understand that, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna be honest with you, basketball's gonna come in second to
Oh,
football
sure.
all day long.
Well,
And
the
so,
revenue, the projected revenue for baseball in 2025 is going to be 1.1 billion from CBS and Turner Networks. So that's pretty dramatic. I don't think it, I don't think it rivals the football prop. But what I think what was meant is you can't just say the Power Five is going to move on, because there are more teams outside the Power Five that make up the NCAA tournaments. In some way, there's going to have compensation for that.
I get that. All right. Next, a fascinating story to me. I'm sure it was to you too. You know, just to say the least. If I'd have told you, you know, a month ago that, you know, a basketball player from Clemson was going to get signed with an NFL team after not playing football since he left high school, which was 4 years with one university, and then he came to Clemson for another year, would you have gone, yeah, I can see that happening? Or would you have been like me, going, what? For those of you that, I'm sorry. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about Nas Bohannon, or Naz Bohannon. I don't know if I'm saying it right or not. You know, the forward that played with Clemson this past year, 6'6", 232-pound forward, is now a tight end in the NFL, or is getting a shot at being a tight end in the NFL. You know, were you as shocked as me, Sam?
You know, nothing about this basketball program shocks. Nothing. For a basketball player to get drafted in the NFL in possibly one of the worst, not worst, but one of the least productive drafts for Clemson football, to have a Clemson basketball player come in and make such a, to me, I chuckled. I think it's wonderful. But
I do too.
Where I don't chuckle is I ask, where the hell is this boy? This boy last year when we could have used him? He could have been out there 266, 231. We could have used him.
And I get that. I get that's going to be a big question. But at the same time, he played 4 years at, I want to say it was Youngstown State.
It was Youngstown, yeah.
Youngstown State. Then came to Clemson and played a year in basketball. Never, to my knowledge, never was, you know, well, I mean, he hadn't played football since he was a senior in high school, from my understanding. So, you know, that whole, you know, how did Dabo miss on him, or how did that doesn't even factor into me. Okay.
Well,
you know, sure this kid, I'm happy for him. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he made a conscious decision, and, you know, it looks to be, you know, paying off for him. But, you know, like you said a minute ago, nothing about, you know, this basketball program surprises me very much anymore. But this one was a shocker. I will say that.
I think it's delightful. I think it's wonderful that this young man is going to get that opportunity, and I hope he does. He's on the 90-person roster. And of course, that'll be cut ultimately down to 53, if I'm correct, which, you know, he may or may not make that cut. But by the mere fact they brought him in on at the first cut and he's still there, means they see something in this young man. So hopefully he'll make Brad Brownell and Dabo Swinney proud.
Hey, I agree 100%. You know, you don't see stories like this every day, and it's a feel-good story. You know, there are going to be many people paying attention to this as you get closer to that 50-man roster. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, with all of the other that we just talked about, you know, it's got to give a little bit of, shine a little light on Clemson too. So it
Oh,
doesn't hurt us a bit, I mean, to have another feel good story coming out of Clemson. So,
well, I think that there's enough, and we will not discuss this tonight. I want Jason, if he joins us again soon, I want to talk about the up and down craziness of the 2023 recruiting class. But that's for another day. But I will say this: Clemson is a place of good stories. There are a lot of human interest stories. There are a lot of good things of all universities, but particularly because we love Clemson, those mean the most to me. But anyway.
Oh yeah. Well, y'all, I missed most of the show, but I hope y'all enjoyed it. We've come to the end of another good show. Thanks to Sam for carrying the rock for us for the majority of the time. As y'all have heard me say many times, if y'all will go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to it, like us. Let us know what y'all think. Let us know, what you want us to talk about. Within reason, we'll do our best to talk about it, as y'all have already seen. If you get a chance, go over to ClemsonJunkies.com and read some of our articles. Hopefully y'all, get as much entertainment out of that as we do writing them, and as much as we enjoy putting this podcast out here. Sam, you had something else to say?
No, I was just going to say, recently we got the opportunity to recommit to another year with Clemson Tiger Junkies, and I'm so happy. Our publisher, editor made a really great move. He's allowed me and you and a few others that post on the site regularly the opportunity to continue. I can't guarantee that every day we're going to hit home runs with our articles, but I can guarantee you every day there will be some article of value for sure. And we appreciate y'all watching, our reading, and hopefully continue to watch.
Same here. All right, y'all. Until the next time, as y'all know, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.